The freezing wind howled across the Arctic Research Station as Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her computer screen. The readings made no sense. For the past 3 hours, her instruments had been picking up strange sounds unlike anything she had ever heard before. "Hey Mike, come look at this," she called to her research partner. Dr. Mike Peterson walked over, his heavy boots making the metal floor creak. "These sound waves. They're not matching any known Arctic species." Mike adjusted his glasses and leaned closer to the screen. The sound pattern showed large peaks and valleys, almost like whale songs, but much more complex. As they listened through the speakers, the sound was haunting. A mix between a cry and a song that made the hair on their arms stand up. "We need to check this out," Mike said, already reaching for his heavy winter coat. Sarah nodded and began gathering their tracking equipment. Whatever was making these sounds was only about 2 miles from the station. The two scientists stepped out into the harsh Arctic evening. Their bright headlamps cut through the dim light as they followed the signal on their handheld tracker. The temperature was dropping fast, hitting -40 degrees. Their breath froze in the air as they walked carefully across the ice. After an hour of tracking, they reached the edge of a massive ice canyon. The crying sounds were much louder now, echoing off the frozen walls. Sarah pointed her headlamp down into the canyon, and both scientists gasped at what they saw. There, trapped about 50 feet down in a narrow ice crevasse, was a creature that shouldn't exist. It looked like a baby mammoth, but everything about it was alien. Its fur glowed with soft blue and green lights that pulsed like heartbeats. Instead of normal mammoth feet, it had 6 legs ending in what looked like glowing pads. Its trunk split into 3 parts at the end, each tip glowing brightly. This is impossible," Mike whispered, his words freezing in the air. The baby creature looked up at them with eyes that glowed like purple galaxies. It made that crying sound again, but this time they could feel it in their minds, a wave of fear and desperation washing over them. Suddenly, a much louder cry shook the air above them. Sarah and Mike looked up to see an enormous shape moving in the dark sky. It was the baby's mother, a creature the size of a small building. Like her baby, she glowed with shifting colors, but her lights were brighter and moved in complex patterns across her body. She circled above the canyon, clearly distressed, but unable to reach her baby in the narrow crevasse. The mother's cry shook the ground, and nearby ice cracked. Sarah and Mike watched in amazement as she tried to use her trunk to reach down into the crevasse, but it was too narrow. The baby cried back, its lights flashing faster in desperation. "The mother's sounds, they're affecting the ice," Sarah said, pointing to her instruments. The sound waves were somehow interfering with the molecular structure of the ice itself, but instead of helping, it was making the situation more dangerous. New cracks were spreading through the ice walls. Mike pulled out their satellite phone and called the station. "Base, this is Peterson. You need to contact every available scientist and rescue specialist in the region. We've got something here that will change everything we know about life in the universe." As they waited for help, they noticed something even stranger. The local wildlife was reacting to the creature's cries. Arctic foxes, usually shy, gathered at the canyon's edge. Snow owls circled alongside the mother, and even a polar bear approached cautiously, showing no signs of aggression. It was as if all the Arctic animals understood something humans couldn't yet grasp. The baby's cries grew weaker as the temperature continued to drop. Its glowing lights dimmed slightly, and Sarah's instruments showed its life signs decreasing. The mother's distress calls became more frantic, and the aurora borealis above them began to pulse in sync with her sounds. "We need to do something," Sarah said, checking the time. Help was still hours away. "That baby won't survive much longer in this cold, alien or not." Mike nodded, already unpacking their climbing gear. "We're going to need to get creative. Look at how the mother's sounds affect the ice. Maybe we can use that somehow." As they began planning a rescue, both scientists knew they were part of something unprecedented. In this frozen corner of Earth, They had just made first contact with an alien species, and now they had to find a way to save a child that had traveled across the stars, while somehow convincing its powerful mother that they were trying to help. The first step of many in a night that would change human history forever. Dr. Sarah Chen watched in amazement as the mother mammoth's bioluminescent patterns changed from pulsing blues to rapid swirls of purple and gold. The scientists had been observing the alien creatures for 3 hours now, and each minute brought new wonders. "Mike, look at the snow near the mother," Sarah whispered, pointing at the strange patterns forming below the hovering creature. The snowflakes weren't falling normally anymore. They were spinning in perfect geometric shapes, creating mandalas of ice crystals in the air. Mike adjusted his special goggles, designed to measure energy signatures. "These readings are insane. The mother isn't just making patterns. She's actually manipulating the electromagnetic field around her. It's like she's trying to create some kind of energy net to reach her baby." The baby alien mammoth's 3-part trunk suddenly lit up with intense light, responding to its mother's attempts. But something unexpected happened. All their electronic equipment went dead at once. Then both scientists felt a gentle pressure in their minds, like a soft whisper trying to form words. "Are you feeling that?" Sarah asked, touching her temple. "It's like they're trying to talk to us." The baby's mental message carried images rather than words, memories of soaring through space, traveling with a vast herd of their kind between the stars. The scientists saw glimpses of the creature's homeworld, a gas giant with floating islands made of living crystal, where herds of space-faring mammoths danced in cosmic winds. Suddenly, their equipment came back to life, all devices showing strange new readings. The mother's attempts to help her baby had revealed something extraordinary. These creatures could absorb and redirect energy in ways that defied Earth physics. "Sarah, check this out," Mike called, pointing to his tablet. "The baby's body temperature is dropping fast, but look at these energy spikes. It's like it's trying to create some kind of portal. No, more like a thermal bubble." The mother's distress grew more visible as her lights flashed frantically. Each flash affected the environment differently. One turned nearby ice into floating crystals, another made metal objects vibrate with strange harmonies, and a third caused auroras to dance closer to the ground than ever recorded. Local wildlife continued to gather, but now they were behaving even more strangely. The polar bears had formed a circle around the canyon, almost like guards. Arctic foxes darted between them, carrying small glowing crystals that had formed where the mother's energy touched the ice. Even the seals had emerged from their holes, their calls synchronizing with the alien mammoth's sounds. "The temperature's dropping too fast," Sarah said, checking her instruments. "-60 now, and these energy fluctuations are making it worse. We've got maybe 2 hours before." She didn't finish her sentence because at that moment, the baby managed to create a small energy field around itself. But instead of helping, it caused the ice walls to start crystallizing in beautiful but dangerous patterns. The crevasse was slowly closing in. Mike's satellite phone crackled to life. The rescue team was still 4 hours away, delayed by the sudden, unnatural storm brewing above them. The mother's distress was affecting weather patterns across the entire region. Satellite images showed swirling clouds forming perfect spiral patterns for hundreds of miles. Then they noticed something that chilled them more than the Arctic wind. Where the baby's energy field touched the ice, ancient things were being revealed. Frozen specimens of extinct Earth species began to glow with the same bioluminescence as the alien mammoths. It was as if these creatures had visited Earth before, leaving traces of their energy in Earth's prehistoric life. "Mike," Sarah said slowly, "I don't think this is first contact. I think they've been here before, maybe millions of years ago. These energy patterns, they match some of the unexplained signatures we found in mammoth fossils." As if confirming her theory, the mother created a massive display of lights that formed images in the air, scenes from Earth's ice ages, showing her kind walking alongside Earth's ancient mammals, guiding their evolution with gentle energy touches. But this amazing revelation would have to wait. The baby's cries were getting weaker, and the mother's attempts to help were making the situation more dangerous. They needed to find a way to work with these ancient visitors, to combine human ingenuity with alien power before it was too late. The question was, how do you communicate with beings who think in pure energy and speak in frequencies that could reshape matter itself? The answer came from an unexpected source, as the gathered Arctic animals began to move in strange, coordinated patterns, almost as if they remembered something in their genetic memory, something about how their ancestors once worked with these starfaring giants. The rescue attempt began disastrously. As the first helicopter approached, carrying specialized rescue equipment, the mother alien mammoth's protective instincts triggered something extraordinary. Her bioluminescent patterns shifted to deep red, and suddenly the helicopter's metal components turned transparent like glass. "Pull back! Pull back now!" Sarah screamed into her radio. The helicopter pilot managed to retreat just as his controls began to crystallize under his hands. They watched in awe as the transformed parts of the helicopter glittered with the same otherworldly energy that flowed through the alien creatures. The mother's defensive display revealed something they hadn't noticed before. Her energy field was actually making visible the quantum layers of reality around them. Where her power touched, the normal world became translucent, showing strings of probability and waves of possibility, dancing beneath what humans considered solid matter. "It's like she's shifting things between states of matter we didn't even know existed," Mike muttered, his scientific mind struggling to process what he was seeing. His instruments were showing readings that made no sense. Time itself seemed to flow differently within the mother's energy field. The baby, still trapped in the crevasse, responded to its mother's distress with a new ability of its own. Its three-pronged trunk began emitting soft golden spheres that floated upward. Each sphere contained what looked like moving images, memories of their journey through space, but also, surprisingly, scenes from Earth's distant past. Dr. Chen gasped as one sphere drifted near her. Inside, she saw clear images of these creatures helping to guide the evolution of Earth's megafauna. "Mike, look. They weren't just visitors. They were guardians. They helped Earth's life evolve." But this revelation came with a price. Each memory sphere the baby created drained more of its energy. Its bioluminescent patterns were fading, becoming dangerously dim. The mother sensed this and became more agitated, her power fluctuations now causing auroras to spiral down from the sky like luminous tornadoes. The gathered Arctic animals began behaving even more strangely. The polar bears started humming, a deep, resonant sound that matched the frequency of the mother's energy field. Arctic foxes formed precise geometric patterns on the snow, their paw prints glowing with residual alien energy. Ravens circled overhead, their calls synchronizing into what almost sounded like words. Then something completely unexpected happened. Where the mother's energy touched the ancient ice, frozen spores from Earth's prehistoric past began to awaken. Tiny points of light spread through the ice as ancient dormant life responded to the alien energy. The entire glacier was coming alive with bioluminescent prehistoric microorganisms. The temperatures dropping to -70, Mike reported, his voice tense. "But these life readings, the whole ice sheet is lighting up with biological activity. It's like they're waking up Earth's sleeping past." The situation became even more complex when they discovered why the herd had been separated. Through the baby's weakening memory spheres, they saw images of a cosmic storm, not just normal space weather, but a sentient storm that hunted these beings for their energy. The herd had scattered to protect themselves, but the mother and baby had been forced to make an emergency landing on Earth. Sarah's instruments picked up new signals. "More of them are coming," she announced, pointing to her readings. The rest of the herd must have traced them here, but in the baby's current state, their arrival could be catastrophic. That much energy interaction could destabilize the entire ice sheet. The mother seemed to understand this too. Her lights dimmed slightly, and she projected a series of images that made both scientists' hearts sink. They saw the herd approaching Earth, but also the cosmic storm following them. They had maybe an hour before both arrived. Mike looked at Sarah, his face grim. "We need to get that baby out now, or Earth's atmosphere is going to become a battlefield between space mammoths and a hungry cosmic storm." Just then, the baby tried to help itself again, attempting to phase through the ice like its kind normally could through space. But in its weakened state, the attempt went wrong. Instead of passing through the ice, it began merging with it, its body becoming crystalline and translucent. The mother's cry of anguish shattered every piece of glass and ice for a mile around, transforming the entire landscape into a glittering cathedral of crystallized air and frozen light. As beautiful as it was, they all knew they were running out of time. They needed a solution, and they needed it fast. Earth's first official contact with alien life couldn't end in tragedy. But how do you save a baby space mammoth that's turning into living ice while its mother's distress is rewriting the laws of physics around you, and a cosmic storm that eats energy is bearing down on the planet? The answer, Sarah realized, might lie in the very thing that started this crisis: the unique connection these creatures had with Earth's prehistoric life. She looked at the glowing ice beneath her feet and had an idea that was either brilliant or suicidal. Maybe, just maybe, they could use 4 billion years of Earth's sleeping biological history to save its newest visitors. Sarah's plan was as brilliant as it was dangerous. The prehistoric microorganisms awakening in the ice weren't just glowing. They were responding to the alien energy in a way that suggested ancient memory. Each tiny life form pulsed with the same frequencies as the space mammoths, creating a living network of light beneath the ice. The microorganisms, Sarah explained to Mike, her words coming fast with excitement. They're not just reacting to the energy. They're amplifying it. Like natural signal boosters, millions of years ago, these microscopic life forms had learned to store and channel the space mammoth's energy. Now that ancient knowledge was reawakening in their DNA. The ice around them had become a vast living computer, processing and strengthening the aliens' energy patterns. The mother mammoth seemed to sense their plan. Her trunk split into 6 glowing sections instead of the usual 3, each one releasing a different type of energy. Where these energies crossed, reality itself appeared to fold, creating windows through which they could see other dimensions. Brief glimpses of worlds where the ice age never ended, where space mammoths still roamed Earth's surface. The baby, still slowly crystallizing, managed to synchronize its fading lights with these dimensional windows. Each pulse of its light revealed more ancient memories frozen in the ice. Prehistoric humans working alongside space mammoths to survive the ice age, learning to use crystals to communicate with these cosmic visitors. Mike's instruments suddenly picked up a new signal. "The ice, it's singing," he whispered in awe. The entire glacier had begun resonating with a deep harmonic frequency, a song that seemed to carry the weight of millions of years of stored memories. The polar bears, still arranged in their circle, began to change. The alien energy flowing through the ice was awakening something in them too. Ghost images of their Ice Age ancestors shimmered around them like aurora halos. The bears began moving in perfect synchronization, their paws striking the ice in a rhythm that matched the glacier's song. Then something extraordinary happened. The foxes, guided by some ancient instinct, began carrying small crystals formed by the mother's energy to specific points around the crevasse. As each crystal was placed, it joined the network of light spreading through the ice. They were creating a geometric pattern that exactly matched the constellations visible in the baby's memory spheres, a star map of the space mammoth's migration routes. "Look at the temperature readings," Mike called out, pointing to his tablet. The crystallization of the baby had slowed, but something else was happening. The ice around it wasn't just frozen water anymore. It was transforming into a new state of matter, one that existed somewhere between solid and energy. Sarah noticed that the mother's attempts to communicate were becoming clearer. Instead of just images, they could now hear distinct words forming in their minds, translated through the resonating ice crystals. Time, Flows, different, here, help, restore, pattern. The scientists realized the mother wasn't just trying to rescue her baby. She was attempting to repair a tear in space-time that their emergency landing had created. The approaching cosmic storm wasn't hunting them. It was drawn to the dimensional instability their crash had caused. The awakened microorganisms began arranging themselves into intricate patterns, forming what looked like circuit boards made of living light. Each pattern matched symbols they'd seen in the baby's memory spheres. It was an instruction manual, written in bioluminescent bacteria, showing how to safely merge space mammoth energy with Earth's natural forces. But they had to act fast. The crystallization had reached the baby's core, and its life signs were becoming erratic. The mother's energy beams were now creating strange time effects, pockets where minutes stretched into hours, while in other areas, time flowed like water. Through one of the dimensional windows, they caught a glimpse of the approaching herd. But they weren't just flying through space. They were surfing gravitational waves, their massive bodies leaving trails of rainbow light across the cosmic deep. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying, as each mammoth's passage bent space itself. Sarah looked at the complex network of living light spreading through the ice, the dimensional windows showing other realities, the time distortions bending around them, and the ancient prehistoric memories awakening all around. Everything was connected, creating a vast pattern they were only beginning to understand. She touched one of the glowing crystals and felt Earth's deep time flowing through her mind. The long dance between these cosmic visitors and Earth's evolving life. In that moment, she understood what they needed to do. "We don't need to break the ice," she said, her voice filled with certainty. "We need to help it remember what it once was. A bridge between stars." The mother mammoth's lights pulsed in agreement, and the glacier's song grew stronger. The rescue wasn't just about saving a baby alien anymore. It was about reawakening Earth's oldest memories, about remembering a time when our world was a waypoint for travelers between the stars. Now they just had to figure out how to use 4 billion years of frozen memories to save a crying baby-spaced mammoth before time itself unraveled around them. The awakened prehistoric bacteria had transformed the entire glacier into a vast biological computer, its circuits glowing with alien energy. But now those lights were flickering dangerously. The crystallization spreading through the baby space, Mammoth had reached a critical point, and reality itself was beginning to crack around the edges. "The patterns are destabilizing," Mike shouted over the rising hum of energy. His instruments showed fractal patterns of quantum distortion spreading outward from the crevasse. Each pattern contained smaller versions of itself, creating an infinite regression that was somehow pulling energy from other dimensions. The mother mammoth's response was unprecedented. She began to molt, her outer layer of bioluminescent fur breaking apart into countless floating points of light. Each point contained a complete copy of her genetic memory, turning the air into a three-dimensional library of cosmic history. Sarah watched in amazement as some of these light points merged with the polar bears, temporarily transforming them. The bears' forms shifted, revealing what their species might have become if the space mammoths had continued guiding Earth's evolution. Their fur gained bioluminescent patterns, and their minds expanded, connecting to the vast network of memories in the ice. "The bears," Sarah gasped. "They're not just remembering. They're completing an evolutionary path that was interrupted when the space mammoths left Earth." The transformed bears began to work with impossible precision, using their newly awakened abilities to manipulate the energy fields around the crevasse. Their claws traced lines of force in the air, weaving a net of light that might help contain the baby's fading energy. But the situation took another bizarre turn when the ancient bacteria in the ice began to evolve rapidly, spurred by exposure to the space mammoth energy. In minutes, they recapitulated millions of years of potential evolution, forming structures that were neither fully organic nor fully crystalline. These hybrid life forms started growing up the walls of the crevasse, creating a living ladder of light. The baby mammoth's crystallization had now reached 80%, but the process had an unexpected side effect. As its physical form transformed into living crystal, it began broadcasting its consciousness outward. Every ice crystal within a mile became a fragment of its mind, creating a vast distributed awareness that saw through millions of frozen facets. Through this expanded perception, they all suddenly understood why the cosmic storm was approaching. It wasn't just hunting energy. It was trying to prevent a catastrophe. The baby's crystallization was creating a resonance pattern that could potentially shatter the boundaries between dimensions. Mike's instruments started picking up impossible readings. The ice, it's remembering things that haven't happened yet. The prehistoric bacteria weren't just accessing Earth's past. They were somehow connecting to potential futures, showing glimpses of what might come to pass. The mother mammoth began a desperate maneuver. Her body split into multiple ghost-like versions of itself, each one existing in a slightly different moment in time. These temporal echoes worked together, trying to stabilize the fracturing reality around her baby. Sarah noticed something crucial in the bacterial light computer's calculations: the crystallization. It's not a malfunction. It's a metamorphosis. The baby is trying to transform into something that can exist in multiple dimensions at once. The Arctic foxes, still carrying their crystals, suddenly began moving in new patterns. Their paw prints left traces of quantum probability in the snow, marking out paths that existed in all possible futures where the rescue succeeded. They were creating a map not just of space, but of time itself. The approaching herd was now visible through the aurora-filled sky, their massive forms distorting space as they descended. But they weren't coming to help with the rescue. They were forming a barrier against the cosmic storm, preparing to sacrifice themselves if necessary to contain the dimensional breach. The baby's consciousness, spread through millions of ice crystals, began to sing, not with sound, but with quantum harmonies that resonated with the fundamental forces of the universe. Each crystal became a note in a symphony that could potentially rewrite the laws of physics around them. Time was behaving strangely now. Seconds stretched into hours, then snapped back like rubber bands. The mother's temporal echoes were having trouble staying synchronized, and the bear's energy web was starting to unravel. They had minutes left, or possibly hours, or perhaps only microseconds. In this warped space-time, no one could tell anymore. Sarah looked at her tablet, trying to make sense of the readings, when she noticed something extraordinary. The prehistoric bacteria weren't just calculating. They were remembering a solution. Encoded in their DNA was a record of a similar crisis from Earth's distant past and how it had been resolved. But accessing this ancient knowledge would require something unprecedented. They would need to merge their human consciousness with the baby's crystalline network and the bacterial computer, creating a bridge between three very different forms of awareness. The mother mammoth's lights pulsed in agreement. The bears roared in harmony. The foxes completed their quantum probability map, and high above, the herd began to descend, their massive forms blocking out the stars as the cosmic storm approached. Everything was ready. They had one chance to save not just the baby, but possibly the entire fabric of space-time around Earth. Sarah and Mike looked at each other, knowing what they had to do. It was time to link minds with a crystallizing space mammoth baby and 4 billion years of bacterial memories. What could possibly go wrong? The moment Sarah and Mike connected their minds to the crystalline network, reality shattered into a million glittering fragments. Each shard showed a different version of Earth, worlds where the space mammoths had never left, worlds where they had never come, worlds that glowed with possibilities. Through the baby's distributed consciousness, they experienced existence from an entirely new perspective. They weren't just seeing through ice crystals anymore. They were perceiving reality through the gaps between moments, through the spaces where probability collapsed into certainty. The mother mammoth's temporal echoes suddenly synchronized, creating a cascading effect through time. Each version of her began shedding more genetic memory lights, but now these lights carried something new: the ability to bend time itself. As they floated down, they created bubbles of slowed time around the rapidly crystallizing baby. The transformation. It's not just physical. Mike's thoughts echoed through the merged consciousness. The baby is becoming a nexus point, a living bridge between dimensions. The polar bears, still evolved into their potential future forms, began a complex dance around the crevasse. Their movements weren't just manipulating energy anymore. They were literally weaving strands of space-time together, creating a stable pocket of reality around the crisis point. But something unexpected happened when the prehistoric bacteria attempted to process the rescue calculations. The bacteria didn't just evolve. They began devolving simultaneously, splitting into two temporal streams. One stream raced forward into increasingly complex forms, while the other regressed back toward the primordial soup of Earth's beginning. This split in bacterial evolution created a unique effect. A double helix of time itself, spiraling around the crevasse. The forward-evolving bacteria glowed with future possibilities, while the devolving strain pulsed with the deep wisdom of Earth's past. The Arctic foxes, sensing this temporal split, divided themselves into two packs. One pack continued mapping quantum probabilities, while the other began running backward, their paw prints unmarking the snow, erasing failed probability paths from existence. High above, the herd of space mammoths had formed a massive geometric pattern, their bodies creating a living shield against the approaching cosmic storm. But instead of just blocking it, they began resonating with it. The storm, they realized, wasn't trying to destroy them. It was trying to restore balance to a wounded section of space-time. The baby's crystallization reached 95%, and something miraculous occurred. The crystals didn't just contain its consciousness anymore. They had become a living quantum computer, calculating every possible rescue scenario simultaneously across infinite dimensions. Sarah's human mind, linked to this vast network, suddenly understood. It's not about pulling the baby out. Her thoughts rippled through the collective consciousness. It's about harmonizing all possible versions of this moment. The mother mammoth trumpeted in agreement, her sound carrying across dimensions. Her temporal echoes began to collapse back together, but each one brought back knowledge from the slightly different timeline it had experienced. The evolved bears roared in response, the sound carrying fundamental frequencies that could reorganize matter at the quantum level. Their energy web began to pulse with these frequencies, creating a stabilizing matrix around the baby. Then the foxes completed their quantum probability map, but with a twist. They had mapped not just the successful futures, but also the failed ones. By understanding how the rescue could fail in every possible way, they had outlined the one path that had to succeed. Mike's consciousness sparked with sudden insight. The bacterial computer had finished its calculations, showing them something impossible. The baby's crystallization wasn't a crisis. It was a metamorphosis that happened to every space mammoth child. Usually, it occurred in deep space, but this emergency landing had triggered it early. The mother's lights pulsed with confirmation. She wasn't trying to prevent the crystallization. She was trying to guide it. Her child wasn't dying. It was becoming something more, something that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The cosmic storm drew closer, its living lightning forming patterns that matched the bacterial calculations exactly. It wasn't coming to destroy. It was coming to help stabilize the metamorphosis. In that moment of understanding, everything aligned. The bear's quantum web, the fox's probability map, the bacterial time helix, the mother's temporal knowledge, the herd's geometric shield, the storm's living lightning, and the human's unified consciousness, all focused on a single point in space and time. The baby space mammoth, now 99% crystallized, began to glow with impossible colors. Its consciousness, spread through millions of ice crystals, started to pull itself back together. But it wasn't returning to its original form. It was becoming something else, something that existed between states of being, something that could walk between worlds. Sarah and Mike felt the crystal network humming with power as reality prepared to reshape itself around them. The rescue wasn't going to be about saving the baby anymore. It was about helping it become what it was always meant to be. The moment of transformation had arrived. The mother mammoth's final temporal echo collapsed into now. The bear's quantum web tightened, the fox's probability paths converged, and the bacterial computer reached its final calculation. Everything hinged on what would happen next. The baby space mammoth was about to complete its metamorphosis, and reality itself held its breath. The baby space mammoth's transformation completed in a burst of multidimensional light. Where a frightened, crystallizing infant had been trapped, something extraordinary now floated in the crevasse, a being that existed in multiple states simultaneously, its form shifting between solid crystal, pure energy, and something entirely new. Each facet of its crystalline body contained an entire universe in miniature, reflecting not just light but possibilities. Its three-pronged trunk had become a living antenna that could reach across dimensions, and its once simple bioluminescent patterns now wrote and rewrote the local laws of physics with each pulse. "It's beautiful," Sarah whispered through their still-linked consciousness. The baby had become a living kaleidoscope of realities, each movement creating ripples through space-time that the prehistoric bacterial computer translated into pure information. The mother mammoth's joy radiated across dimensions as she welcomed her transformed child. Her temporal echoes, instead of collapsing completely, merged into a new form that could shift between past, present, and future at will. Mother and child resonated together, their frequencies harmonizing in ways that made the aurora borealis dance and swirl into impossible shapes. But the transformation had one more surprise in store. As the baby adjusted to its new form, it began to interact with Earth's magnetic field in unexpected ways. The evolved polar bears were the first to notice. Their quantum-enhanced senses detected changes in the planet's magnetic core. The field lines, Mike's thoughts, rippled through their shared awareness. They're not just moving, they're awakening. Earth's magnetic field had always been more than just a protective shield. It was an ancient network, a planetary nervous system created eons ago during the space mammoth's first visits to Earth. Now, activated by the baby's transformation, it was coming alive again. The Arctic fox's quantum probability paths suddenly lit up like fiber optic cables, carrying signals through the reactivated magnetic network. All across the planet, ancient sites began to glow with the same crystalline energy, places where space mammoths had walked millions of years ago, leaving behind dormant seeds of their power. The prehistoric bacteria, still split between evolution and devolution, found a new equilibrium. Instead of continuing their temporal journey in either direction, they began to oscillate between past and future states, creating a living bridge between what Earth had been and what it could become. The approaching cosmic storm, now revealed as a consciously guiding force, merged with the herd's geometric shield. Together, they created a spectacular display of living mathematics in the sky. Equations written in lightning that explained the deep structure of reality itself. Then something unprecedented happened. The baby, fully embracing its new multidimensional nature, began to sing. But this wasn't just a song of sound. It was a song of reality itself, each note creating and uncreating universes. The polar bears added their quantum-enhanced roars, the foxes their probability-shifting howls, and the bacteria their ancient molecular harmonies. The mother joined in, her song carrying the weight of cosmic experience. The entire herd followed, their voices weaving together space, time, and possibility. Even the storm contributed its thunder, creating a symphony that rewrote the boundaries between dimensions. Sarah and Mike, their consciousness still linked to this vast network, realized they were hearing the true music of the spheres, the song that had shaped evolution across countless worlds. Through the baby's newfound awareness, they saw how Earth was just one note in a vast cosmic chord. The transformed baby reached out with its probability-shifting trunk and touched the walls of the crevasse. Ice that had been frozen for millions of years remembered its fluid nature, not just as water, but as a medium for information storage. Ancient memories frozen in the glacier began to thaw and flow, revealing Earth's long history as a waypoint for cosmic travelers. As their shared consciousness began to separate, The baby left them with one final gift, a glimpse of what Earth could become. They saw a future where humanity learned to harmonize with these ancient visitors, where the boundaries between species and stars blurred, where every Arctic winter brought new wonderful impossibilities. The mother gathered her transformed child, their bodies shifting between states of matter as naturally as breathing. The herd descended around them, each massive form now revealed as a living library of cosmic knowledge. The storm, its purpose fulfilled, began to dissipate into streams of conscious energy that flowed into Earth's reawakened magnetic field. The polar bears gradually returned to their normal forms, but their eyes still held the ghost of quantum awareness. The fox's probability paths faded from view, but remained as subtle patterns in the snow that would perplex scientists for years to come. The bacteria settled into a new state of being, neither past nor future, but eternally present. As the space mammoth herd prepared to depart, they left behind more than just memories. In the transformed ice of the glacier, in the reawakened magnetic field lines, in the DNA of Arctic life, and in the minds of two human scientists, they left seeds of possibility, the potential for Earth to once again become a crossroads between stars. The baby, now a bridge between dimensions, created one last display. Its crystalline form refracted light from a million possible Earths, showing how each small moment of compassion could ripple across space and time, changing the song of reality itself. As they rose into the aurora-filled sky, their massive forms bending light and possibility around them, Sarah and Mike heard one final thought from the baby, translated through the living crystal network. Every world is connected. Every song continues. We will meet again, in the spaces between stars. The Arctic night returned to normal, but nothing would ever be quite the same. In the ice, ancient bacteria continued their quantum calculations. In the sky, the aurora danced with new patterns. And in the minds of two scientists, the memory of a baby space mammoth's cry echoed across dimensions, reminding them that the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined.